Right.
What else? So then H is harness your thoughts. So we have a lot of thoughts that come into our crazy minds. We tend to spend a lot of time ruminating about the past and worrying about the future and not where our feet are. And we can be pretty hard on ourselves. You know, we talk negatively, we say things to ourselves that we would never say to a friend or maybe even an enemy, but yet we say these things to ourselves. And so, you know, there's a lot of work on automatic negative thoughts or cognitive distortions when we say things like, oh, I'll never be able to do that, or this always happens to me. Well,
Yes.
those statements, just because you think them, they're not true. So first we have to establish you're not your thoughts, and just because you think it doesn't make it true. And so we can argue against those and kind of become like a lawyer presenting against ourselves and say, no, sure. Remember when you found that parking spot last week? See, you do get a parking spot sometimes.
Yes.
And then another thing I like to do is just this thing called 50 snaps. So do you want to do 50 snaps with me?
Absolutely.
For a minute? Okay, so we're just going to count silently to ourselves. So listeners, do wherever you are, if you're driving, you can do it with one hand, but we're going to count 50 snaps. Ready? Go. All right. Guess what you were not doing while you were snapping and counting?
Oh, I was so busy counting, I couldn't think about all the other things.
Exactly. And that's really, the 50 snaps is just kind of a fun way to interrupt. When you find yourself going down a thought spiral or a thought hole, what you really need to do is just interrupt it.
Yes.
And
okay.
You can interrupt it with taking some deep breaths, right? But you can interrupt it with arguing against yourself. But even like 50 snaps, sometimes it's just something tangible, like I'm going to snap out of it and just do that. And I have had people text me going hashtag 50 snaps all day today, or, you know, and because it's just kind of, it makes it, I think it's like naming it to tame it strategy, because you know you're having these irrational thoughts.
Yes.
And so you're like, I'm going to just snap out of it. And it takes the power away.
But it's when someone says just snap out of it, that's never going to, that's aggressive. You know, don't tell me to snap out of it. But if you can have a practice that you can do to say, you know what, why don't you try 50 snaps? And then their mind will be snapped right out of it without them being told that. It's very